And it is, we would like to talk about how people can rethink their way of working for the sake of improving productivity. Okay? Right, so I can see that. Right, can you help me? Because the right doesn't work. Somebody can help me? Doesn't work? Right, I was about to talk about technology. Maybe I can skip that one. Right, okay, a lot of things have been said. That's the risk when you start talking at mid-morning, but I try to be as innovative as I can. Next one, right. So the world is changing fast. I'm going to talk about how and why. I'll give an example. The Yale example has been given by Bass this morning, so I'll try to all skip that one. And I'll talk about the vision of work that we have at Regus. So first of all, talking about flexibility, it's talking about, and co-working is talking about working wherever we want, however we want, and when we want. That's the first basic. This is nothing new. We've been talking about that for the past 20, 25 years. It took many appellations. We talk about hot desking, about flexible desk working, about agile working, about hoteling. It took many names, but that's the same thing. It did not materialize, though, until, I would say, the late 90s. Early 20s. Why is that? Because technology was not there. We were working in sort of analog era, stuck into the offices in the middle of files, cabling, lines, and the rest of it, and there's no way people could go out. The second reason why it didn't work is because the mentality was not there. Managers were more driven into putting their people next to their behind their desks and counting the number of hours they were working than just managing them by results. So it doesn't work. However, now conventional offices and this old model doesn't work. It's just unsustainable. Doesn't work because for the company, because it's expensive, is inefficient, and is unproductive. Doesn't work for people because the offices are not in the right location. People have to commute. So Jan, you just talked about that. I think we're about commuting, and it's too expensive. It's unproductive. It's time waste. Doesn't work. It doesn't work for environment as well because the commercial buildings are the worst in terms of generation of pollution. So it doesn't work. The model today doesn't work, and flexible working is the solution. So it's not a trend. It's not a short-time fashion model. It's there. Nobody can ignore it. First of all, it changed our way of life. It changed the functioning of the company, and it changed also our interaction with environments. And the train of flexible working is passing by. You just can walking or just miss it. But if you miss it for good. This morning I was sitting next to a lady there, Katinka, Noop, and I just asked her, what are you doing? And she said, I'm a facility manager, I think, of a company that gathers all the judges in the Netherlands. I said, what are you doing here? And she said, the judges are going flexible, working. So I have a problem to imagine a judge working in a big office with thick carpets, high ceiling, going flexible. If judges can do that, we all can do that. Because it helps reduce cost, property cost. It helps, it improves actually business performance. It helps to improve as well motivations and productivity of people. It also helps companies to access a pool of talent and retain them through an improved work-life balance. So this is where we're going. So what are the drivers? Philippe Ross talked to us about technology this morning. Yes, this is the enabler. Technology is writing the new rules. The dissemination of technology is not changing our working practices. I'm not going to go into that because that's been told already. Real estate costs, we're all trying to cut costs, and one of the number one, I would say, priority is to cut property costs because our offices are not widely designed. There's too much space, not enough collaborating space though, but here you probably see in your own companies, 50% of your office space is unused at any point of the day. Culture, Philippe Ross will talk to us about culture. We are now moving from a presenteeism management to more I would say, result-oriented management. People, I think we talked about that also this morning. There are to 4 different generations working in the same office. The one that's coming up is the millennium. These are IT literate young boys and girls that are coming up with different expectations, different needs, different objectives, and you will never drive them. You never attract them and retain them if you put them behind a desk the whole day. So people and managers have to think about the way to manage these people. This is a big driver. Sustainability, just talk about that. Properties and offices are the ones that generate more CO2, and we are more conscious about that. And last, transport. This is a nice one. We also talk about that, Ian. This is probably the most challenging social behavior associated with work, with the offices. We are 3.5 billion people in the cities. We will double in size in about 40 years. And yet today, the cities are immobile, saturated. It takes us 2 hours in Paris to reach destinations when you are in the periphery. In London, there are 24 million trips every day, 2 billion trips every year, bus trips every year. And yet, we are still converging to the cities. So the development of technology and is going very fast. Transport will never meet the needs of the development of the growth of people. Cannot. So here we have a very big issue for the governments, and flexibility at work could be a solution. So we thought at Regus, what would people need in order to work outside the main office? And actually, if you look around here in this deck, in this slide, not much. The bigger the circle is, the bigger the need. So they need electric power. They need fast and secure internet line. They need printing. They need some services. Nothing that they could not find outside the office environment.
So where are things like coffee and food?
Well, you can find coffee anywhere, right? Not only in the office. You can even work from a Starbucks coffee, actually. You can work from anywhere.
What do enterprise workers want? Go.
Well, that's a good one, actually. That's a good one. You were not in this survey, actually. But that's a good one. I don't know if the video works. It does? May not. So can someone just... Yes, no? It's taking some minutes of my time, so right,
I think it's pretty clear that while the recession had slowed us down over the last 3 quarters, it certainly wasn't as backbreaking as it could have been. Ron, I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, you
Yeah, I got a little visual aid here. All right. So, search engine optimization, SEO, as we were calling it,
Right. So this is co-working. So I'm not sure now you want to believe in this concept, but probably these people are not choosing the right venue. But co-working is basically an alternative to the office and home. It's really working absolutely everywhere, and technology is enabling us to work from absolutely everywhere. We can work from a train station, as we saw, Vian. We can work from a airport, from even a Starbucks coffee, from a Regus Business Center. Technology is opening and unlocking a lot of possibilities. What are the advantages? First of all, we don't have always all the services at the main office. Meeting rooms are not always available. The offices, as I said, or the buildings are now in selected areas, whereas people are living dispersed around the city or outside of the city, so are not always easy to hit, and a lot of commuting is necessary. Average commuting is about 80 minutes. 80 minutes per day, it's about a month, a working month a year that we are stuck in traffic or in a train, right? So think about it, how we could use this precious time, whether for family reason or just revert it back to the employer. The home is not always the best venue as well. There's a lot of distraction. There's a physical constraint. Sometimes not the right technology, right? So not always the right space. And the basics of co-working and of the third space, as it is here, is to be accessible at any time, to be available. So this is the main thing. Well, the other important thing is, an asset is that it's not only always available, but you don't have to maintain it, you don't have to buy it, to rent it, to fix it, you don't have to care about the capex, and the amortization is there. Sit down and start work. And it could be any venue, right? We think that for corporate people, the business centers is the main venue. You can, first of all, you don't have distraction, you are not isolated, you have assistants, you have services behind, you have coffee. You can have, and obviously it's important thing is you are not far from home. It's really, as I said, is an alternative between the office and home. So you can have much improved work-life balance. And you can have even your mind at peace knowing that you could hit your home at any time, easy for family reasons. So we have the Yale case, so we've been talking about that before. Yes, indeed, they had 20 locations, more or less, in the UK, not really good, well located. And their people had to go, and especially the salespeople had to go every morning to the office, debrief, go to their client, and go back to the office in the afternoon for the last debrief from the day. They were more or less losing 2 hours, 3 hours every day, just on commuting from their client's house, the field, to the offices. So it was unproductive way of working. The company was nearly going bankrupt. They had some little competition as Google, you may have heard about them, and they were really doing bad. So they closed up their offices, their buildings, about 20 locations, and they just gave total flexibility and co-working spaces to their staff at Regus Center. They had some cards, show up anytime they need an office, and then go back to their clients. Their productivity and their client visit just doubled from 4 to 8. Right, and now they save about £3 million first year just on property. Motivation rocket and performance as well, productivity and performance as well. That's an example of how it works. So some example, we've been talking about that. This is the same as Jan showed you. What we just want, the purpose is to make sure that people are not going to work, but work is going to people. Just want to make sure that work is no longer a place we go, but something we do. That's the purpose. That's Regus' vision of the future. So when you look at that space, it's very similar to a business lunch in the airport, right? But this kind of space has been adopted by a lot of companies already. I visited Rabobank last year, Vodafone's Macquarie banks, ING, Telefonica, and many other companies that are already using that kind of space. As you can see, there is no visible technology, though there's a lot of technology behind, right? It's a very nice environment. It's there just to help people work together or just sit down and work yourself, right? So that's where we envision the future. Not only in the airport, but in also what we have here, what we call community center. These are Regus spaces that we just deliver in residential areas. There's no offices. This is where people live. And they can just pop in that and in this area and work next to their house. The next thing also, and that already exists in Germany, and this is the one in Paris we have. We are now in the gas station. Same thing. We bring the work to people, and we just try to reduce commuting. We also have that in airports, in the terminals, and in shopping malls. This is where we really envision where we should be. And actually, we could be in many other places, actually, just wherever people need it. So where is the trend going? So we think that the headquarters and the main office should still be there, but redesigning. right? Smaller, and with, I would say, the main focus on an average occupancy and not on a long-term occupation, right? Today, again, 50% of your space is sitting empty at any point of the day, and sometimes even more. That's a lot of waste of money, of cost, that could be reduced. So the office will be redesigned with much more collaborative, and as I showed you before, with open spaces and where more collaborative work. We think that there will be many more flexible offices, so you could use them in Regus Center, for example, wherever a company needs to open a new office in a new country or in a new region or wherever, or open branch offices, project offices, all kind of these kind of projects where they will have an office ready-made. They don't have to pay for the lease. They don't have to worry about the maintenance, and the capex is there, and for the term they need. But we're going then from capex on the left-hand side toward the right-hand side, which is more opex. Total flexibility and a sort of pay-as-you-use model, right? And the mobile one would be for mobile people like salespeople, consultants, heavy travelers, managers that would need to have a place to work anywhere they are. Again, it could be a Starbucks coffee or it could be a Regus Center, right? To carry out presentations, interviews, demonstrations, whatever they are. They won't need to commute from the field all the way down to the office just to do a demonstration or to send their emails or do their phone calls, right? They'll have somewhere, wherever they are, right, they can pop in a Regus Center, for example, they can pop in, start work for an hour, half an hour, and just go back to the field. A lot of time saved. That will make their property portfolio much more flexible. That will make their people much more productive and performant. So this is where we are moving from CapEx to OpEx. I'll be open to any questions if you have. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions? Please can you introduce yourself shortly?
Yes. My name is Françoise Bronner. I'm coming from France. I'm a researcher. I would like to know how you measure the increase in the employee productivity.
Right, it's a very good point. If we want to go flexible and adopt this model, there are at least three main points that we have to solve. First of all, we have to get the agreements of the IT, the CEO, the HR, and the property managers. They have to adopt this way of working. Second of all, we have to change culture, right? From the old and conventional office space into the mobile space. But then, and you pointed out, we need to put a figure on the table. If we are not able to put a figure on the table, that will never work. We at Regus did an equation on cost savings, right? I'm not going to give you the equation now because it doesn't make sense, but what I can tell you is that if you think that the average commuting is 80 minutes per day, and that's a minimum, where you're in France, Françoise, you know that in Paris, it's much more. It's probably 2 hours, and I used to live in Paris, it's 2 hours, right? Imagine 2 hours is next to a month and a half, nearly 2 months of your working month a year that you spend in traffic. Should you reduce that by 80%, because that's probably it, or 90%, how much time you could deliver back to your employer? How much more energy you will have to dedicate to your work, and how much time you'll spend also with your family to make you a more motivated person, right? This is the way you could measure it, but also by working flexible, you could probably cut down your property costs by 40%, 50%. A lot of people that don't need an office and need a flexible office would just leave their space. They don't need it, right? So you will redesign your office space, same as Yale did. Close up some offices, redesign the other one, and they just cut their property costs by 70% year one. Yeah? And then how do you measure motivations? And performance linked to motivation, that's something that's not very tangible.